Welcome back to Media Talks TV. Happy Friday. Um, just wanted to get started with this whole thing with the Diddy documentary. And I want your honest thoughts on this, because I watched the whole series this week. So it took me about maybe about 2 days to finish watching the series. And here's the conclusion that I've come to, right? Is Diddy a horrible person? Yeah, but is he a monster like R. Kelly? And I'm often tasked with asking myself this question because I've delved deep into the documentary. I saw the footage. I've seen all the footage. I think 50 did such a damn good job. I don't know how the hell he got all that footage, but he did an amazing fucking job with that documentary. And I was just blown away by how much footage he had of Cassie. I mean, it was a little bit of footage, but I mean, they had the inside footage of Cassie and a lot of the shit that we heard from the court case before this documentary came out made made a lot of sense. And especially hearing the jurors talk about the case, the two jurors that decided on the not guilty verdicts, that was mind blowing. But I guess we all came to the same fucking conclusion that the jurors came to. And you could say what you want, whether it be fandom or idolatry, like we idolize Diddy, whatever. The fact of the matter is, these fucking women went back after these said incidences happened. But the thing that really blew my mind about the documentary is Aubrey O'Day's testimony. And Aubrey O'Day's testimony really conflicted. It was conflicting for a lot of reasons. I'm going to get into that later on. But the first two episodes, the early episode, which I'm a really focus on episode 1, and that's Diddy's upbringing. Some of us as black men, we tend to not get therapy for some of the traumas that we end up in. And I think in a lot of ways, Diddy became the person that he became mainly because of his mother. A lot of us don't want to admit the trauma that our mother, well, and basically our parents put us through. And a lot of us out here, especially as black men, we don't really admit that many black mothers ain't shit, to be honest. And a lot of what Diddy went through, it just seemed like there was some sort of Oedipus complex going on between Janice and Sean and how their relationship developed. It seemed like he became the man after his father died. And I think that burden that was put on him early in his childhood, that was created by his mother because she felt a sense of safety when her father was around, when her husband was around. That sense of responsibility and safety kind of shifted onto him. And in some ways, it looks like Diddy just carried that shit through, and it made him very, very tough. Whether you believe it or not, sometimes the things that happen, we either become as black men, we either become a victim of our environment or we become an example of our environment despite the setbacks or the obstacles. Harlem made him, but most of how he was raised and how he was reared might have had a very big impact on how he ended up becoming the person that he is became. And most people do not understand that. Most people who are not black don't understand that. And maybe in some ways there could have been a situation where he could have gotten even less time than what he got now. But the the thing that the second episode was interesting, but with the first episode, when you talk about the origins, how he became, well, you see that ambition and that hunger. That's a rarity in most people. And then, of course, you know, hmm, I guess with the second episode, everything was about the whole East Coast West Coast thing. There could be connections there. I think this is it's just like, you can't really put two and two together. Even if you think the evidence is there, like I said, like it's been almost 30 years since that whole Biggie and Tupac thing, and it's becoming like for us kind of like the whole Kennedy assassination, the grassy knoll theory. Who killed Tupac? Who killed Biggie? Who set him up? We're probably never going to fucking know who killed those two. And with the speculation, it seems like they just adding on to the fucking narrative. And Kirk Barrows, even though he's a childhood friend of his, I feel like he has still has some type of resentment towards Diddy, and maybe some of that, the credibility of his stories don't really line up because, of course, like I said, when you fall out over business disagreements and business money, you get looked at as the fucking disgruntled employee. And the fact is, even with Kurt Barrow's interview, I just still didn't really believe some of the shit that he was saying. Even though, yeah, you grew up with this person, you know them like a book, but still, like I said, in terms of credibility, he doesn't have it because he got fired from Bad Boy. So even interviewing him would call his credibility into question about how true those stories are. The whole thing about making Puffy pay for, like, making Biggie Puffy making Biggie's estate pay for his own funeral, that shit was, I don't know how that shit could be proven. That's hearsay. But then we get to the very last two episodes. The thing with Shine, well, we know that was fucked up. We know all about that. That's already been proven. Um, there still hasn't been a reason that the one thing that the documentary didn't question was, of course, why J Lo left and why she left the relationship. It would have been very good to hear J Lo's side of the story of how the reason why she left Diddy in the first place. That would have been real good. If 50 was able to get that interview, that would have been real good. But with the very last episode, I had a lot of issue with because here we go back to the whole Aubrey O'Day and Cassie situation. And this is one of the primary main reasons why that case should have never fucking went to trial in the first place. I don't really truly believe it because even in the testimony, she openly admitted that she was recruiting, that Cassie was recruiting sex workers. And if you're recruiting sex workers and Diddy is not the one who ordered the sex workers, then why is he getting charged with sex trafficking? Because he wasn't the one that fucking ordered it. I still don't understand how you could make a fucking testimony and then say you're a victim and say somebody forced you to do something, but you were the ringleader in recruiting male escorts. And I'll never fucking understand it. I'll never fucking forget that how you're a woman. Nobody made you make that call. You could have said no. And this is where I say the onus about women needs to be really the central part of that documentary. Um, you had Aubrey O'Day make an accusation about Diddy 20 years after the fact. She said she didn't know what the fuck happened. She says there was a man standing over her and all these claims about she was knocked out and sexually assaulted. I don't believe that shit. If you knew somebody knew that happened to you and they brought it to your attention, then they're just as guilty and as fucking culpable as the person who commits the act. because now you're a witness to a crime. So then how the fuck did she not tell the cops what happened? Why didn't she file a police report if she was a witness to a crime being committed? You can't say, oh, and it goes back to that same fucking excuse, right? The same fucking excuse that was used in the Cosby case. Oh, I was afraid he was a very powerful man. Bear in mind, this nigga is black. How much power does he actually really have besides the money? He's not Epstein. He's not Weinstein. Black men don't have that much fucking power, no matter how much fucking money they have. And I think what has happened is Diddy gave them a chance and they became fucking disgruntled employees. That's what this is. At the heart of it, that's what it sounds like. Somebody didn't pay me. He didn't pay me this amount of money. He didn't pay me that amount of money. You hear the text and all the stuff. What really was is, oh, Diddy didn't pay me for that advance. Diddy didn't do this. Diddy didn't do that. And then it turns around and say, I saw Diddy do this. I saw Diddy shoot somebody in the bathroom. I saw Diddy this, and this, and this. And it goes back and forth. And it's like a walking contradiction between every single person that's being interviewed on this documentary, especially Joy. She's saying she's still afraid of Diddy. You old as shit. You must have had a reason to do this documentary for a reason, right? People talk about they're afraid of somebody. I'm like, if a crime is being committed, it don't matter. I'm going to step forward. I'm going to fucking report it. If I see somebody doing something foul, I'm going to report it because it's my civic duty to do so. Called being a good Samaritan. If I witness a crime being committed, then I have to call the police. But see, and then the shit with Cassie. This is the one thing that aggravates the fuck out of me about the documentary. Cassie is still being painted as a victim. She is not a fucking victim. No matter how many times you try to wrap your head around that shit, she called the male escorts. She was fucking the male escorts. She did exactly what was said to be done, and she kept continuing to go back and go back and go back and go back, and then didn't want to leave, and then pops up and wants to make a lawsuit to get some money out of him. But you continue to be with this man because why? Because you wanted the fame, you wanted the money, you wanted the cars, you wanted everything, and he gave you that. And a lot of women, and like I said, like this is indicative of a lot of women today that continue to go with guys that they know ain't shit because they wanted money. And then they could say, well, that was me back then. I was fucking naive. I was 19 years old. I was 19 too. I was 25. At what point does accountability pop in with Cassie? At what point does she take responsibility for the choices that she made in her life? I'm not saying she she wasn't abused. Yeah, she was abused. But you also participated in the abuse as well. You were an equal participant in the victimization of other people. And while I understand her circumstances, I still do not, I still question the fact that she sat up there and tried to paint herself as, little Miss Innocent. A lot of girls do this shit all the time. They will make themselves out to be the innocent one when they were the perpetrators of that violence, of that abuse. And this juror, which was very thought provoking, he said that you can't have it both ways. You say one hand slaps the other, but there were two hands coming together. I thought that was a great analogy that he made. You can't have it both ways. The jurors did not see her as the victim. She wasn't sex trafficked. They were saying that Diddy sex trafficked all these women, that Bad Boy was a criminal enterprise and all this other shit. And the thing about it, now that I think about it now, after watching the documentary, he shouldn't even have those two prostitution charges. Because if that was the case, that he had a wild sex life, then a RICO charge should be put on somebody like Hugh Hefner. A RICO charge should be put on somebody like Gene Simmons, or Hugh Hefner, or Larry Flint. But it seemed like anytime a black man has a whole bunch of women or has sex with a whole bunch of women, it's now considered sex trafficking. Thing about the Mann Act, what people don't understand about the Mann Act, is that the Mann Act itself was a federal law that was about preventing white slavery. But in a sense, the law at the heart of it was to prevent black men from sleeping with white women. The law was specifically made to put a man like Jack Johnson in jail. It's only rarely been applied racially within the federal government. And remember, on my previous video, I said there was a time when prostitution was actually legal in the United States. And then when black people started having bordellos and houses of prostitution in New Orleans, white people wanted to put a stop to it because the violation of the Mann Act. But you see more white people, white men, sleeping with black women. But it's not considered prostitution to them. But when it's a black man sleeping with a white woman, it's a prostitution charge. It's a federal prostitution charge, and it's a violation of the Mann Act. And who has this Mann Act thing been applied to? It's been applied to Jack Johnson. It's been applied to Chuck Berry. Meanwhile, somebody like Elvis could marry 14-year-old Priscilla Presley and not get charged with child bride or statutory rape. And what's interesting about that charge, two counts of the Mann Act for Diddy, It's basically punishing him for having a consensual sexual lifestyle that is out of the norms of a traditional marriage. So he's basically in jail for being a fucking playboy. I'm not going to talk about the whole abuse and all that shit and Cassie getting her ass beat on tape. I'm not going to go into that because that's not what the fuck he's in jail for. Okay, he did some horrible shit. But if the government wanted to charge him with something, they should have charged him with domestic violence. They should have charged him with being a violent person, but he wasn't charged for that. He was charged for a fucking RICO. They overcharged him and they missed. So the loss really lies on the prosecution. And Maureen Comey, I believe, got fired because of that. Maureen Comey is somebody like they have these fucking agendas, and you're seeing now in the United States that women now have fucking agendas to put men in prison now for having consensual relationships. All these sugar daddy relationships, these sugar baby, sugar daddy relationships that have become increasingly popular over the last 15 years. But now when it doesn't fucking go their way, they want to claim abuse or they want to claim sex trafficking after the fact that it was a consensual fucking relationship in the first place. And it's totally different. And it's totally fucking different. This case is not an R. Kelly type case. These were grown ass women, like 25, 27 years old, accusing Diddy of being abusive, of being a rapist. And now you have a lot of women wanting to bring civil suits now. Now it's all about the fucking money. You couldn't put them in jail, but you want to break them now. Just like Cosby. Cosby is a blind motherfucker now. He got more civil suits. They couldn't get Cosby. Only got 2 years in prison, and then he came out. Shit got overturned. Poetic justice. You can't ask. You can't have a woman, and this is really going towards the women because, like I said, these women get on social media. They want a man that makes 100K. They want a rich man, and then when they get it, they mad at what type of baggage come with that. They don't want no broke man. They always talking about how men are being broke. But you had the richest man in the world and now you trying to sue him. Cassie wouldn't be who the fuck she is today if it wasn't for Diddy. She had Ryan Leslie. She left Ryan Leslie. They were boyfriend and girlfriend. She didn't want to be in that fucking relationship no more. I.e., Ryan Leslie was the nice guy. Ryan Leslie looked out for Cassie. And what happened? She left him and chose to go with Diddy because she saw the fame. She was in love with Diddy. She said they don't understand. They were in love. They were doing freak offs together. What do you call that? This swinger lifestyle that people get into? What do you call that? Do you call that a fucking consensual relationship? You liked him, he liked you. It wasn't a forced thing. But women saying, "Oh, there was a power dynamic because that was her boss." Lots of women sleep with their bosses. Quid pro quo. Lots of women sleep with their bosses to get to the top. That's what I'm saying. It's a very big problem. We live in an era now where social media wants to have this reactionary story about Diddy, and it's like they're not focusing on the true facts of the case. And one of the things that really popped out to me was just the social media thing wrapped around the whole case that could have had too much sway on the jury. When you have people pile on accusations and pile on accusations without any proven facts, a lot of that shit ends up going out the window. A lot of the true facts because people don't know what to believe anymore. Everything is all on speculation and hearsay. And I thought his lawyers did a fantastic job doing what they were doing. He had the money, he had the lawyers. He got a lot of chances. He escaped. He escaped from a lot of bullshit, a lot of legal trouble. So the best thing for him once he gets out of jail would be to take his money and flee the fucking country and never return. That's what Russell Simmons did. You see, ain't nobody get to Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons somewhere on an island somewhere in Bali, meditating and eating vegan food all fucking day. He living a stress free life. Ain't nobody messing with that man. I wish I could be like Russell Simmons right, cause that man, he knew the shit was coming down the pipeline, and he got the fuck out of the United States real quick. That nigga be meditating and shit. He living a happy life. 66 years old. 60. Yeah, yeah, he'd be 68 next year. Like I said, happy life. Yeah, I just wanted to give my viewpoint on a Diddy documentary because I know there's a lot of people still watching it. I'm probably gonna get back to my other shit. But thanks for tuning in to another video, Media Talks TV. I'm Tony J. Make sure you hit the like. Leave your comments. Tell me what you think about the documentary, man. Cause I want to hear your opinions about the documentary. I want to have a let's have a conversation. Let's talk about that as men. You know, as someone here. Uh, if you're new here, make sure you subscribe. I'm trying to build up my audience, and I've been doing a good job. I'm trying to put down as many videos as I possibly can. But I want to really engage with my viewers. I'm probably going to start a live. But I don't know when I'm going to start some lives. but it's gonna be pretty soon next year. Once I get to 200 subscribers, I'll probably start doing um some live streams instead of just doing regular videos. But you know, make sure you hit the like, share this video, and leave a comment down. What do you think about the documentary? Because I'm still not swayed by the evidence, even still, that that man should still be in prison right now. Should be out next year, to be honest. But yeah, I'm out. Peace.